You good? So let's just close our eyes for a few moments. Let's have a gentle smile. Relax your shoulders. Open your heart. Relax your legs. Relax your seat. Watch your breath for a few moments, just at the nostrils, just using the passage of the breath at the nostrils as a focus point to bring your mind even more here and now. Like relying on that breath that is always in the moment so that you can pull your mind here. You don't want to miss anything. You want your full mind present for this last class of the series. And just make a short wish in your heart that everything that comes through the teachings tonight, you could fully get at a level beyond words, and that it would ignite your heart and your wisdom, and that you could then help many other beings. And let that be your motivation for being here tonight. Pray that your Lama help you stay present and understand. And if you don't have an official Lama, just some kind of teacher, someone you see as a teacher figure in your life, ask them for your help. Ask them for help. Feel like they bless your heart with assistance, with a blessing, for more capacity to understand. Thank your teacher. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So very cool, you know. One of my holy lamas just happened to be in the building when I showed up. Very exciting. I'm all a quiver. Yeah, it's special, you know. I don't get to see them that much anymore. You know, there's a point in time in your spiritual career. You know, there's a time when you throw yourself at the feet of your teacher and you suck it all in, and then they kick you out. They say, "No, go, child. You're full, right? You're full. Go teach." So this is what they've done to me. And so I don't see them that often anymore. So it's beautiful. And interesting, right? Tonight I thought, well, tonight's a special class, so I'm going to wear my special mala, and I have this crystal-like mala with this red string that was made for me, and it's very special to me. And I wore it tonight, thinking, but I also brought it back up because I thought that one is hard to get off and like debate with. So I thought I'll just have this by my side if I happen to have an unruly student and I need to debate with him. You know, and then it just so happens that my holy lama, was here, and so you don't see your holy lama and then show up empty-handed, right? I mean, I could have thought, well, I did bring the massage table. You know, I could have thought, well, I did bring an offering. I brought the massage table, which she asked for, but I didn't know she was going to be here. It was supposed to be left here, and she would get it tomorrow morning, right? So I'm thinking, what am I going to offer her? And then I see on my wrist this thing, which I'm very fond of this thing, right? But where do things come from, right? Without hesitation, I ripped that thing off of my wrist and offered it, right? And then she said, "Did you know I was going to be here? Where'd you find that thing? Where'd you pull that thing out of?" Right? I don't know where I pulled it out of. I just happened to have it on me, right? So this is what happens when you have a teacher and you're devoted to that teacher. Things like that happen, and because she is who he is, she is who he is. That's a good one. She will accept the offering for me, right? For my mind, she will accept the offering. Very, very cool. And it's no coincidence that she was here for a moment that I got to see her tonight, because this is a very special class. The last class, it's the last class of the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life, right? Wesley! Good evening. But yeah, so it's the last class, so it's very, very cool that she was here for a second, right? So according to Geshe Michael Roach, this at the point in time that he delivered this series, he was declaring that this class was the most difficult class that he had taught. Of all 11 that he had taught previous to that, the 9th chapter of the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life, and I'm sure you can all attest that there were some difficult moments. There are things that you heard that you'll be digesting for years, trust me. You will. You'll be trying to figure out what Arya Nagarjuna was talking about and what emptiness means. Honestly, you'll be trying to figure it out until you see emptiness directly. You won't really know what it is until that moment. But you can get a very good idea, and you can get a very good functional idea that will function for you perfectly to take you where you need to go to see emptiness directly. So I've said this before, make no mistake, that your current understanding of emptiness is exactly what you need right now. There's nothing wrong with it. And it may not be perfect right now, but it is perfect for you right now. And it will take you where you need to go. It functions for you right now. Because it's one of the most difficult things to understand. Ever. Ever. Okay? And he says that he didn't expect that many survivors. So I have to say the same thing. That you guys hung in there, and you know, I think the group even expanded. We've got some new people. Right? The reverse happened. The opposite reverse happened. You know, so we got through all the tough stuff. And in the commentaries, the people that have attempted over the years to translate this book, it's very difficult for them to translate this book, especially the 9th chapter. And many people, they try to translate what Master Shantideva has written, and they end up just kind of making like a long paragraph. Right? And even it seems like Gelche at sometimes is struggling to get the true meaning, because the verses themselves, the actual verses themselves out of the book, they're very hard to understand. And they seem very contrary, actually, if you read the verses. Some of them seem like he's saying the opposite of what is kind of taught in the commentary. But what's very interesting here is he gets to the very, very end. And remember, he did this whole book in one afternoon. Right? In one afternoon, he just laid this whole book out. And then he decides at the very end, he wants to leave future generations with something. Right? He wants to leave future generations with the one karma that is the most powerful karma of all. And this is what we get in this class, which is very cool. And which is the karma of compassion. The karma of compassion. And the karma of wanting to spend the rest of your life helping others achieve their goals. And to keep the teachings in this world. And that's why he starts out defining love and compassion. Because once you understand emptiness, once you've graded yourself over the coals and banged your head against the wall enough times and vomited a few times, and you start to get this sense of what emptiness is and how it the function it performs in your world, then you have to do something with it. It's one thing to understand that objects are empty. I am empty. But then what are you going to do with it, right? So what if the pen is not a pen, right? So what if I am not me, self-existently, from my own side? So what? What are you going to do with that information? And that's what he wants to deliver now. Love and compassion. Are love and compassion the same thing? Mirska's saying no, they're not the same thing. Anybody else? Love and compassion. Let's consider love and compassion. They are too the same thing because they think of someone else.
Sure.
Okay, so thinking of someone else makes all thoughts the same. So then, if what you're saying is true, then anger and love and compassion are all the same thing.
No.
Anger, love, and compassion aren't the same thing.
No.
But according to you, it must be true because you just said that love and compassion are the same just because you're thinking of somebody else. So it must be true. Will you take it back now?
Cheer.
I just gave you the reason.
Oh,
It's true
love.
because of what you said.
I take it back.
You take it back. Oh, she takes it back now. Let's consider love and compassion. They're the same thing because they're pointed at somebody else.
No.
Oh, so they're the same. So you're saying that they're not pointed at somebody else.
No.
They are pointed at somebody else.
Yes.
So just because they're pointed at somebody else, they're not the same thing?
Yeah, but not necessarily.
Oh, so you mean they could be the same thing?
Yes.
So love and compassion could be the same thing.
Yeah.
There's no difference between love and compassion.
Depends.
Depends on what?
Who's looking?
Depends who's looking. So okay, so then there is no definition of what love is, and there is no definition of what compassion is to help others understand.
There is.
There is. You can't tell me the difference between love and compassion
No.
because you don't know.
No.
You can.
Yeah.
Show.
Love is wanting to give everything. That's the definition. And compassion is wanting to take away all pain.
So compassion. So loving is wanting to give everything. So you just want to give everybody garbage. This is great because I got a bunch of garbage in my apartment. I'm like, I love you.
I love you.
Take my garbage. Is this what you're telling me? You just want to give
No.
everything? Oh, you want to give something.
You want to give certain things.
Certain things. You can't tell me what those certain things are.
I can.
Show!
Love. You want to give.
You want to give love?
Love.
Love is love?
Love is love.
Is it
You
confusing
want to
everything
give
now?
protection from fear. You want to give wisdom. Teachings.
Are you talking about the perfection of giving now or love?
Well, now I'm just going around in circles.
You can't say that. It's my job to tell you. Simply put, compassion, you said it, is wanting to take away their suffering. Simply put, loving is wanting to
give them every good thing.
Give them every good thing. Thank you. I guess I believe you. Give them every good thing. So that's the difference between, if you're ever wondering what, I thought it was cool when I first figured that out. The difference between love and compassion is, compassion, you don't want them to suffer. Love is you want to give them every good thing. It's a difference. And it's cool. Compassion is in Tibetan Ningje. Ningje. And J means what? King, Lord, right?
Lord,
And Ning means heart. So it's like Lord of hearts. Lord of all hearts. Very cool. Compassion. Lord of all hearts. The desire that all living beings be free from suffering. And they have this debate in the monastery, which one comes first. And in some interpretations, you see one first and then the other first. But what they use here is the metaphor of a mother and their child. So if you're going to consider which one comes first, they would say, in this case, compassion comes first. Because we're talking about a realm of suffering. And so in the same way that a mother, if their child was sick, they would want to get rid of their sickness first. That would be the first thing on their minds, and then give them a teddy bear after. Right? The mother's first concern would be like, oh, my child is sick. But you're not thinking about giving a kid a lollipop at that point. It's like, how do I fix my child's suffering? And then it's more like the giving of the loving, giving all good things comes after. So the goal is, your goal, what you want, the goal you want in your mind, is to figure out some kind of way to remove everyone's suffering and then give them the best thing. Right? What's the best thing? What's the bestest of the best thing?
Wisdom.
Is wisdom the bestest of the best of the best?
The ultimate, what is it?
Ultimate fighting
Enlightenment.
Challenge.
Total enlightenment.
Total enlightenment, right. Yeah. Of course, you would need wisdom to get that.
Yeah.
But you want to give them, tantric deity. You want them to become a tantric deity in their own Buddha paradise. That's what you want. That's the highest thing that you could possibly offer anybody. There ain't no higher than that.
You can't actually give that to somebody.
You can't give it to them, but you could teach them how to do it. Right? If you could give it to them, then enlightened beings suck. Because what are they doing?
They're not.
They're just hanging around going, well, I could give it to them, but they need to suffer more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So it's if you're fortunate enough, right? If you have the virtue enough to see someone in your life that can teach you that, they will teach you that, and they can teach you that. And that's all they can do for you. It's, we'll talk more about it at the end of class, but they can do it for you. They can do it for you because they can't. Uh-oh, now we're back in class 9. They can do it for you because they can't do it for you. They can do it for you because the only way that you could have the perception, right? It could happen. It could happen to you that you have a lama and you spend, lots of time like begging them, right? Please, take me to total enlightenment. Help me see emptiness directly. Please do it. Please do it. And you understand the emptiness of the whole thing. And then one day, you're sitting having a coffee with or tea with your lama, and they look at you and say, hey, guess what? And you're like, what? And they say, that coffee cup, the coffee's going to end. And you go, yeah. And they go, well, why? And you go, and they say, well, because it started. And then you just see emptiness directly. Right? And then, it seems like they did it to you. But Arya Nagarjuna would say, never happened. Arya Nagarjuna would say, your Lama didn't do it. He would also say, your Lama did it. If you can plant the karma, you'll be forced into the perception of seeing your Lama do it for you. But without the virtue, your Lama can't. So who did it? Your virtue did it. Your virtue did it. Right? It's only your virtue that even allows you to see this person as even having the ability. Because if they had that ability, people will be flocked around them, They would be like U2 when they did Joshua Tree. I saw that concert. It was crazy. People really thought they had something. They paid big dollars to go and crowd around them and scream their name. That was an amazing concert. So Master Shantideva is saying, like, now that you understand emptiness, you have to develop those two states of mind. And he prays in his book. He prays, please, right? I pray that I can get those two states of mind. It's amazing. Bodhicitta, the wish to become totally enlightened, so that you could help all other beings become totally enlightened, right? You'll see it, if you read the scriptures, you'll see it all over the place. You'll see high lamas, like begging. High lamas begging their lamas, please, may I have this thought in my mind, for reals. May I really have it. May it not just be like some idea. May I really get it. Because when you really get it, it's different than just thinking about it. When you really get it, it's after you see emptiness directly. But, right? Because Master Shantideva prays, may I have those two thoughts, and may I understand. May I have an understanding of emptiness while I'm having those two thoughts. Like he's praying at the end of the 9th chapter. When I look at people, I pray that I have those two thoughts, love and compassion, and I also pray that I also see the emptiness of them as I'm having those thoughts. It's profound, right? So he's saying the most important thing that you could possibly do with your understanding of emptiness is have those two thoughts. It doesn't, to understand emptiness and not do something with it is crazy. It's madness. It's like, you've been given the keys to the kingdom and you're just like, later. And it's tricky, there's a lot of people that are in that kind of position, right? They have everything that they need. They have time. Leisure and fortune, right? They have time. They have the space to do it. They have the teachings are right there in front of them. They have a teacher teaching. They have a healthy body. They have everything they need. everything they could possibly need. The Porsche, right? The Lamborghini to enlightenment is complete. You know? And they don't get in it. They don't get in the car. They just kind of like get in it once in a while and then get out. Yeah, this thing probably really goes, and then you get out. You got to get in the car, stay in the car. And hopefully your Lambo's in the car too. So, right? Because how are you going to help the world, right? There's, even like in our so-called advanced society, I think most people, if you've lived some kind of normal life, everyone kind of understands that everyone, even in this place, is mentally suffering just as much as anyone else in the world, right? Maybe we're not physically suffering as much. Maybe we have like cushy things to the point that we're actually spoiled about our cushy things. But there's a lot of mental suffering going on. There's a lot of angst. There's a lot of, antidepressants, right? I mean, it's a huge, the pharmaceutical industry is like soaring. It's soaring. It's making tons of money because people are unhappy. People are suffering mentally. They're depressed. They have all this stuff and they're depressed, right? So, and sometimes, it's to get true renunciation, it can be tricky. It can be tricky. Even a spiritual practitioner who's been studying these kinds of things, sometimes it can be hard to look at that kind of suffering in the world and feel like you have any kind of power whatsoever. And I think, I know for myself too, previous, and I know, I'm pretty sure lots of other people feel this, is that this powerlessness to help other people. You want to help other people. But in your mind, somehow you know that you can only help them so much. Like in a worldly way. You can only give them so much. You can give them money, you can give them food, you can dig a well. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you know that it's not enough. Right? They're going to die. They're going to get sick. Your help might not last. Whatever you've done might run out, or will run out, right? And you just have this feeling. But if you get like this, like the 9th chapter, and you get these kinds of courses, you can get super stoked about knowing that you can help by teaching people the way things are really happening, right? Teaching people that generosity is a way to have abundance, right? And that harming somebody else is not the way you got the latte, right? Or butting in line is not the way you got there first. Things like that. Simple things. And if you prove it to yourself enough, then you can feel like your life has some meaning. And I think a lot of people don't feel that. They don't feel like their life has meaning. And if you can ignite this kind of love and compassion with the understanding and wisdom in your mind, you begin to feel like your life has great meaning. And people begin to smell it on you, and they start asking you questions and this and that. And then you get the great joy of being able to help someone, hopefully many people. One is enough. One is enough. What if you could, right, the ripple, what if you could sweetly and perfectly teach one person everything that you know? The echo of that touches many beings. So you can teach them to make their own paradise, really. Because a lot of times we live in this place, maybe, depending on who you are, but you see someone raking leaves and they're mad. They're angry because more leaves are going to come. And they're always going to come. So why bother raking the leaves? Let them pile up. But they're raking the leaves and they're mad at the tree, right? How do you teach someone like that who doesn't understand that the point of raking the leaves is not so the street is clean? How do you teach someone that? Because the street is going to be clean for about 3 seconds. Right? The only way that you can teach someone that is if you know that it's not about cleaning the street. You know, you see people constantly working for a hopeless result. How are you going to teach them? You have to know it yourself. That's the only way that you can teach them. And you have to demonstrate it in your life. Right? And then they'll be like wondering, what is this crazy stuff that John does all the time? It's like, comes to work, but he's like, begs for time off. He's hardly ever here. And then he like takes off for a month to go and retreat like once a year. He's like giving away money all the time. I don't even know where he gets his money. I don't understand. He's always getting stuff from people. You just, and they can't figure it out. But they know there's something going on. Right? And then you're in the position. Right? To help if they ask. If you know. Because people are hungry for something, right? That's why people come to classes. Because, a lot of people, their religions, it wasn't working. At the time that this course was given, which is like, I think, it's 1993 or 1997, maybe 1997, maybe. Anyways, at that time, 10,000 tapes, they were still using tapes at that time, 10,000 tapes went out. People were asking for, and they never advertised. And that was back then. Now, it's amazing what this brand of teaching has done for many, many people. It's really amazing. So, great compassion. What is great compassion? Great compassion is the uncontrived state of mind which, no matter what suffering being it may focus upon, feels an uncontrollable wish to free them. From their pain, right? With exactly the same intensity of love that a mother feels for her only child. I'll say it again. Great compassion is that uncontrived state of mind which, no matter what suffering being it focuses upon, feels an uncontrollable wish to free them from their pain with exactly the same intensity of love that a mother feels for her only child. Think about that for a second. If you had that kind of compassion, your life would be completely extraordinary, completely off the charts extraordinary. It's the key to happiness, is to having that kind of compassion. Even a quarter of it. Even 25%. What would 25% mean? Would that mean that you would actually, look at 25% of the people and want 25% of the people? You, 1/4 of you, I can deal with you 1/4. What does it mean, right? Imagine if you could have the love of a mother for her only child, the compassion of a mother for her only child, to every single person, no matter what they were doing. Whether they were irritating you, or whether they were doing something that you deemed as stupid. They were going against your beliefs. Marge, I want the old Marge back, right? Just be yourself, Marge. Come back to us. Can you love that person, right? With the same intensity? John, what are you doing with your life? Are you ever going to buy a house? You're never going to get to afford a house if you keep up like this, John. Love them, right? With great intensity. Right? Anyone and everything, everything, every person. It's the Holy Grail. It's cool. If you know these kinds of things, you can like what happened so King Arthur, the big llama, sends out his knights of the Round Table, go find the Holy Grail. And they're, yes, master, and they run away and they run off on the horses, galloping across the countryside, right? They must have thought it was out there, right? They must have thought it was somewhere else besides in themselves. And they all got tested, right? According to the legends, every single one of them went through some crazy test searching for the Holy Grail. So that's a good thing about holy, great compassion. They're inside you, waiting for you to do it. Waiting for you to understand and ignite them inside of you. And you don't have to traipse over Hell's Half Acre to find it. It's right there. But you will be tested. Make no mistake. Just like King Arthur's knights of the Round Table, you'll have your own version of those experiences that those boys went through. If they did. I don't even know who they are, or whether that's even true. But it's a good story. It's a good metaphorical visit to a journey. But how do you get something like that? How do you get great compassion? If you understand a person's emptiness, you can get it a lot easier. It's a lot easier. That's why, a Mahayana practitioner. So, we've talked about this before, but there's a Mahayana practitioner and a Hinayana practitioner, right? What's the difference between a Mahayana practitioner and a Hinayana practitioner? What's the difference?
Refuge.
The refuge?
Yeah.
Motivation.
The motivation. Right. Why does what's the motivation, or what's the wish, what's the motivation of a Mahayana practitioner? What's the motivation of a Hinayana practitioner?
Hinayana is doing it for themselves.
Yeah.
And Mahayana is doing it for
everybody else. And that's what really separates the two, right? There's a Hinayana practitioner who is interested in getting enlightened purely for themselves. And the Mahayana practitioner is interested in getting enlightened for the sake of everybody else. Which doesn't mean that a Hinayana is a slouch. Anybody that wishes to become enlightened is like different than anybody else, than most people. Okay? But if you get the Mahayana wish as soon as you can, you go faster because the karma is greater, because you think of more beings. The Hinayana practitioner will eventually get the Mahayana wish, so you might as well get it quicker. But when a Mahayana practitioner sees emptiness directly for the first time, shortly thereafter they have this experience of ultimate bodhicitta. Their heart has been cracked open. They've seen ultimate reality. And they understand for the first time that every tiny ounce of suffering in the world is unnecessary. It's all built up on a mistake. And you see that, you see? When you see emptiness directly, that's one of the things, if you remember, when you come down, one of the things that you realize is you never had one correct thought in your whole life. You never did one unselfish act, and you never did you never had one correct thought about anything you were looking at. And so what you see then, immediately, is how the folly of what you've been doing. But what you don't do in that moment is say to yourself, "Oh, you schmuck. You loser. What have you been doing? Screwing people over for centuries. You've been manipulating people for thousands of years, you loser." No, exactly the opposite. You have intense compassion for the self that you were, because what you see is that you couldn't have done anything else because you didn't understand. And that's why an Arya it's easier for an Arya to have compassion for every single being, because to an Arya, everyone else is a child who doesn't understand what they're doing. They're like mucking about, trying to get things in ways that are only harming them. That's why they say like there's two kinds of beings in the universe. Someone who's seen emptiness directly, and someone who hasn't. And someone who hasn't is like a child. So, for an Arya, watching people lie to the government to get money is like watching a child play with a razor blade. They don't know, right? They don't know that they're going to get hurt. Right? There's a... Master Deva uses the analogy of a burning coal. You probably heard this. Some of you have heard this before. The holding onto the burning coal. And when you become an Arya, that's what happens. When you see emptiness directly, and when you have this moment of ultimate compassion, you literally see and understand what it means when he says they're holding the coal. Because what happens is you hear the screams. You see the beings laid before you, countless beings. You hear the screams of their suffering, and they're screaming, and they're holding on to this coal. It's metaphor, but they're holding on to the coal, and you know, as an Arya, as a newborn Arya, you know that all they need to do is drop the coal, and their suffering will stop. But they will not drop the coal because they don't understand. So they hold on, and they think that I got to work on time because I got all the green lights. They think that I was late for work because the bus didn't come on time. That is a burning coal in your hand. They think, I didn't get the raise because my boss said no. That is a burning coal in your hand.
Gotcha, right? It's the gotcha.
It's the gotcha. Yeah. So when you understand that, you start to have a compassion that you've never known before. And when people come to you and they're troubled, you know the answer. You know the answer to their problem. And you can see that they can't help it. And so you embark upon your journey to slowly but surely teach them how to drop the coal. And you're going to have to repeat stuff. You're going to have to say things over and over because they're going to come back to you with the same problem. It'll be in a different sentence form. And they'll be like, you know, Lama, this isn't working. And you're like, yeah, well, I told you last month that that's not going to work, but it's just a different way of doing it. And you just say the same thing over and over and over. And you tirelessly say it, and you love to say it because you understand it's the key. Right? This realm is just, depending on who you are and how you see it, right? If you see this realm like that, then this realm is like that. There are realms where the Buddhists have done their work and people listened and they're not suffering and they're not dying. They're taking care of each other and propagating their virtue. Right? If you see people fighting over things and getting sick and dying, then that's a lower like evolutionary, like it's like cavemen. Right? We're cavemen, but we just happen to have like laser guns. Right? We're like cavemen that can go to the moon. Mm-hmm. We're still fighting over borders, right? We're still fighting over religion. We're still actually, there's people on this planet that think it's appropriate to kill someone because they have a different idea. And we can fly, we got satellites. One being having that kind of loving compassion far surpasses ever going to the moon. Right? One being having the ability to teach other beings how to treat others in order so they can be happy blows away satellites, blows away, the Mars landing. It blows away all technology. Because that's an achievement. Conquering your own egotistical tendencies to put yourself first and believing that things have self-nature, and so you try to get things and try to make this non-existent self happy. Beating that monster is a true accomplishment. That's why when you take your Bodhisattva vows, there's a thunderous row that goes through all the Buddha paradises, like, another one. Yeah. See, it's easier to look around and realize that the pain is unnecessary and it's built upon a mistake. Then it's easier, because then you realize that you can fix it. You can actually do something about it. So when you first practice compassion, it's artificial. You start to play around with the thought of having compassion. So you're like pretending. It's like sugarcane bodhicitta, it's called. It's like hollow in the middle, right? And that's what you do. You start out like that. It's like when you learn to play piano, I'm in the middle of learning to play piano right now, and I'm like in kindergarten. I'm like plunking around, right? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how to play piano. I have no idea how to play piano. but I'm pretending. I'm starting, right? Well, I have teachers. Right? I have numerous teachers in my life that are like virtuosos, and I'm plucking away pretending one day, right? So that's what your Lama is, right? Your Lama is a virtuoso. Your Lama has this compassion, has this love. They will teach you how. Because they know that's what you need. You need that love and compassion. Without it, you'll just like die. But it's good, because it's a struggle. We fight with these things. Like some of you know this meditation, and some of you it'll be new, but there's this meditation called the Mother Meditation, where you're faking it. You're trying to convince yourself that all beings deserve your love and compassion, the same love and compassion that you should be having for your mother, but most people don't. Most people can't even have that kind of compassion for their own mother, let alone like all these beings doing irritating things, right? So then you have to you go through this whole process of trying to convince yourself over and over and over again, yeah, I guess my mom helped me a little bit. I guess she gave me life, right? Right? I guess she's responsible for this body that is allowing me the potential to become totally enlightened. And that's hard. We go against it. But isn't it her fault that my mom kind of screwed up in the head? No, it isn't. That's your own fault, right? Can I tell the story about the telephone? This is a great story. And I think you can all relate to this. So Mishi tells me one day that there's a certain class that you guys will get later, some of you will get later, where you do this mother meditation. You do it over and over and over again, like every day. This is your main meditation. And you're going over all the great things your mom did for you and how she suffered for you. She wiped your snot off with her hands, and your poop was all over her hands, and she did all these things. She fed you with her own body and all this. You're going over, oh yeah, mom, yeah, I guess she's all right. Yeah, and you're supposed to cultivate this thing where you want to repay her kindness, and you're building. So she tells me she's in the middle of this, and the phone rings. Guess who it is? And she's like, I don't want to answer that. Right? I mean, who can't relate to that? Everyone can relate to that. We have to start somewhere, right? We have to start somewhere. Because generally we're pretty ungrateful. The first time I heard this, I was amazed by this whole thing Geshe Mako said in audio. He goes, someone you go to someone's house and they make you supper, make this nice meal, and you're like, oh, thank you, oh, thank you. Can I do the dishes for you? Can I clean up? They're like, no, just be, don't worry about it. The next night they do the same thing. You're like, oh, thank you, can I do the dishes? No, don't worry about it, just relax. Next thing they do the same thing again. Oh, thank you, great meal. 6 times later you're like, that's good, yeah, great. 10 times later, 12 times, 14 times later, a month later you're like, well, where's dinner? Right? Where's dinner? Well, can we, this, I don't like this so much. Right? Why don't you make the other thing you used to make all the time? Want me to do dishes? Is that someone else's turn to do dishes? It's your turn to do dishes. I don't want to do dishes. That's what we're like. We just take things for granted, right? And so how do you go from that kind of like me? How do you go from that, right, to have this uncontrollable, spontaneous wish, right? You're just oozing with this wish. You see someone, you're like oozing with this. I do not want you to suffer. I want you to have every good thing, no matter who it is. How do you go from not wanting to answer your mom's phone call to wanting every single living being, to want to answer all their phone calls. You practice till it becomes real, till it becomes the uncontrollable wish, right? And by the time you get great compassion, you can't stop it anymore. It's like your breath. It's the new normal. Maha Karuna, great compassion.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just wondering, is there any merit in practicing compassion just for the sake of practicing it, even if you don't actually feel it, and you kind of, like, let's say towards your enemy or somebody who's done great harm to you or something like that?
There's great merit in it, actually. Any movement that your mind makes towards compassion in any shape or form is great merit. Whether you succeed or fail. Whether you think you're going to fail, or whether you're just attempting it or faking it or just trying on compassion. It's that powerful.
I guess what I mean is something that could be an act of compassion. Is that also compassion if you don't feel compassion when you do it?
Was that our encouragement? Can you repeat that?
I guess what I'm trying to say is you could have an act of compassion where you alleviate somebody of their suffering in the moment.
Yeah.
But you actually hate yourself in doing it because that person harmed you in the past or something like that.
Oh, I see what you mean. And could that be compassion? Or could that be meritus?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a good question. So what you have there is a scenario where you've got different things going off, right? The act of alleviating someone from their suffering, has its own merits, right? You had to have had some compassion for them, or you wouldn't have done it.
But what if I'm doing it because that's what my teacher said, or that you should do it, and so that's the only reason you're doing it?
Then that's perfect. Then you did a perfect act. Because that's what teachers do. Teachers, a very good teacher, will ask you to do things that are uncomfortable, right? They'll ask you to do things that will push your envelope, right? Like ask you to serve others, ask you to serve people in ways that you find repugnant, possibly, or you're resistant to, because they know that's exactly what you need to crack open your heart, so that you can get to real compassion. So what you're talking about there is a very amazing act of faith in your teacher, right? Against your normal proclivities, right? You kind of went against the grain of your own persona, listened to your teacher, and just did it anyway. The merit of that is extraordinary. It's off the charts. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's the whole path right there. We're going to talk about that at the end of the class. You did it again. You're always doing this. Yeah, it's true. It's true, Yeah. So there's two types of great compassion. There's the great compassion that wants to free all living beings from suffering. And the great compassion that wants to protect people from suffering. What do you think the difference is between those two? It may sound familiar to some of you. No? It's not coming out?
Could you repeat it?
Yeah. The great compassion that wants to free all living beings from suffering, and the great compassion that wants to protect people from suffering. It's tricky wording. There's a subtle difference between the two of them. They're both good.
Protecting them from suffering, they're not suffering,
Well,
and then freeing them, they are suffering.
well, not really, but it's a good thing to say. The one that wants to free all people from their suffering, that's the one, and there's an argument in the Hinayana scriptures. Can Hinayana people have this kind of compassion? And Jason Kampa says yes. Because the first kind is that you wish. The first kind is like, oh, I wish they were free of their suffering. It's such a pity. It's such a pity. It hurts my heart. It's such a pity to see all this suffering. Number two is you're like, is there something I can do about it? You ask yourself, is there something I can do about it? Those are the two. That's the difference. And the second one is the Mahayana. Is there something that I can actually do to alleviate the suffering of other beings?
Would it be like wishing and the other one is taking the action?
Yeah, it's like that. Very much like that. Like one is a general wish that people be freed, another one is you're going to do some action. You're going to do something about it.
So wishing and teaching.
Yeah. Wishing, teaching. Yeah. And anything else that might be, a physical act, It could also be not teaching, right? It could also be like you want to alleviate them from suffering and you do go and you do dig them a water well, right? It's action. It's put into the world. But if you understand the ultimate cause for their thirst, then you would teach them. But you might dig them a well so that you can teach them.
So they can stay alive for it.
Yeah, long enough to teach them. Or they think you're like this amazing dude. Hey, thanks for digging the well. You're like, I have some cookies in the back. Come on in the back. And then you like lure them in, right? And then you just start to teach them a little bit. That's what, right? So the first one is like, yeah, it's a pity that there's 3 billion people on this planet suffering, right? Trying to be happy, but because they don't understand emptiness, they're doing everything wrong, and whatever happiness they try to get just gives them more suffering. That's a real pity. And that's a beautiful thing. And number two, is there anything I could do to protect them from that? Is there something I could do to protect them from that thought pattern? That's the beauty of emptiness, is you understand that you can't really help them, and that's to teach them emptiness married with good deeds. It's pointless to teach them without the other. You gonna say something?
Be like protection from yourself. Like, I come in peace, and I don't. I understand emptiness enough that I'm not going to harm you. That can be kind of like a protection too,
Mm-hmm.
by being somebody who doesn't have the mistake.
Yeah, you mean like you are living protection, like that. Well, yeah. That's the whole idea. Is that you want to become living protection from fear, right? The walking embodiment of protection from fear. Right? The walking embodiment of love and compassion. That's your goal, is to become that. Right? And as soon as you see emptiness directly, that's what you become an object like that. You become an object of great refuge. You instantly become one of the 3 jewels, actually, when you see emptiness directly. You become one of those. Because, this is what's missing from a lot of teachings in our Western world is like the teachings on morality or some of the Christian teachings, I think, is that they don't teach about emptiness, right? They don't teach why good deeds work. It's very, very different to actually have an understanding of why the good deeds are working and why your non-virtue is creating what it's creating. That's much different than just hearing it and then just thinking, oh, I better not do this and I better do that, without really understanding why. Oh, because God said so, because it was written. Right? It's very different, because you could have a code of behavior that, thou shalt not kill and thou shalt not steal and all this, and you can follow that code of behavior and live a very pure and perfect life. And that will bring its merits. But what they're saying is, without understanding why, like the emptiness of it, the merit is less. Because you don't quite understand. Right? Because emptiness saves you from all that, right? Emptiness saves you from like a guilt trip. Remember when they say in Tibetan Buddhism, there's no word for guilt. There's just intelligent regret, right? And that's what the book is for. The Sixth Sense book is so you watch your mind enough to know that, oh, this person just cut me off in traffic, and I was really angry at them, and I thought that they were the cause of my irritation, and they were the cause of my bad feeling, and you're actually angry at them. And then if you were a person racked with guilt and didn't understand karma and emptiness, then you might call up your Lama and say, you know what I did today? Oh, God, I fingered this person. I was driving and I fingered them and I meant it. I really meant it, Lama John. Right? I feel so bad. I'm failing. I'm not a good Buddhist. That's guilt. That's just like stupid guilt that doesn't help you at all, right? Then the Lama, if he's on his or her game, will say, no, yeah, well, then just think about it with intelligent regret. Think like, oh, what did I cause in that moment? How did it happen? And what will my reaction cause? And then you're like, get smart. You're like, the light goes on and you go, okay, all right. I'm okay. I just won't do it again, or I'll try not to do it again. And you're clean, right? It saves you from a guilt trip, down to like, poor me river. Oh. Oh. Let me take a little boat down the poor me river. It's useless. It's useless. Useless. No use. Useless. You have to learn intelligent regret. You have to learn, right? And emptiness gives you that. Understanding why you shouldn't yell at somebody is much different than thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done that, I'm a schmuck. It's way, way, way different. There's light years different. One of them propagates samsara, one of them doesn't. Right? The one where you go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then you can, even in your mind, you can apologize to them in your mind. Or you could even say, thank you, holy being, for cutting me off and giving me one more chance to purify my anger. Sorry, I screwed it up. Maybe I'll be better next time you come around. Right? Mm-hmm. Like you can, because you don't know. If you're not totally enlightened, you don't know that wasn't like your personal Buddha waiting in traffic for you for 20 years. Here she comes! Right? Emptiness saves you from all that. I mean, with emptiness you can understand that you could perceive yourself suffering very badly. And I could perceive you as a tantric deity. And there will be no contradiction. If you don't understand emptiness, If you don't understand that, if you don't understand how that is not contradictory, then you don't understand emptiness. Right? If you don't understand how you yourself could walk into a room and someone could bow to you and kiss your toes, and someone else could punch you in the face, and they don't contradict each other, then you don't understand emptiness. Right? I remember I used to walk in stores, and I used to always know the security guy was following me around. I knew that he thought I was a thief, right? I don't know. Maybe it was because the way I was dressed. Maybe I looked poor. I don't know what it was. But I would get that a lot. And it's a direct, right? And if you understand the emptiness of things, that's no problem. That's no problem. You can understand why you're having that perception. You can understand why they're having that perception. Yeah. Because a totally enlightened being, they have the ability to perceive yourself suffering. But they're not suffering. They can see both. Let's take a break.
Your father is Mahadeva. All together now. Jai Sitaram, Jai Jai Sitaram, Jai Jai Sitaram, Jai Jai Sitaram. Jai Sitaram, Jai Jai Sitaram, Jai Jai Sitaram, Jai Jai Sitaram. Jai Sitaram, Jai Jai Sitaram.
I know. I like take that from my be more involved and do more. So only take it here.
Huh? Oh. Christine, is the fridge back on?
I just turned
How did you turn it off? How do you?
You take a knife, and you
Oh.
turn the little knob, and you turn it down.
Okay, I didn't know that it was impossible. Okay. Back on? Okay. So next we're talking about this very awesome thing called Halaksam Namdak. Say Halaksam Namdak.
Namdak.
This is the personal responsibility. Say Chima, Dang,
Dan.
Halaksam Namdak,
Halaksam Namdak. Ni.
Dunchik.
Dunchik.
So Halaksam Namdak means personal responsibility. That's what it means. And Chima means protecting compassion, like the second one we talked about. Dang means and, Ni means two, and Dunchik means one and the same. So what that statement means is the state of mind that takes personal responsibility to remove other people's suffering, and the compassion that protects others from suffering. These two are one and the same. So what they're saying is that second wish, where you actually wish, okay, is there something that I can do about it? I'm going to try to do something about it, is the same as Halaksam Namdak. It's the personal responsibility, where you decide, you make a decision. And if you want to succeed at any kind of spiritual endeavor and get the results that you want, you have to reach this. You have to reach this, Halaksam Namdak. I'm going to make sure that people don't suffer anymore. And I don't care if nobody helps me. And I don't care if nobody helps me. Very important. Because they won't. They won't. We were watching a movie the other day, Zen, and it reminded me of, especially in these times, they won't. In a sense where, I don't know, maybe it's still happening in Tibet now, I don't really know, but in this society, if you walk around with a bowl and go house to house and say, I'm a Dharma practitioner, I belong to the Three Jewel Sangha, and would you please feed me so that I don't have to work, and meditate all day on karma and emptiness, and help me so that I can, save the world. You're not going to get that help, right? Where in other societies and in the past, it was what they did. The monks at a certain point would go out and they would beg for their food, and they would only eat what they received from people who were thankful to have the karma to give to the monks. It was this great system.
Yeah.
We had a good thing going back then, people. What's happened? Jobs. Jobs are very time consuming.
Seems like somebody got greedy along the way.
Someone got greedy along the way. One of the monks wanted more.
Yeah.
One of the monks wanted a new car. A better pony.
A Ferrari. The monk of Ferrari.
A new saddle for the
I
pony.
said I don't want pizza for dinner anymore.
Yeah, some kind of karmic shift happened, right? But they won't help you. But you will get the help you need in ways that maybe you don't want, like an irritating person. If you decide, oh yes, I'm going to become a bodhisattva, I'm going to become a totally enlightened being, and you happen to have a big massive dumpster deep in your heart of non-virtue that has to come out.
Dumpster.
Yeah. How is it going to come out? It's not just going to come out just by itself, you sitting alone. It's going to involve other people. All the stuff in your heart that resists people, right? The party that doesn't want to answer the phone, right? When your mom's calling, even when you're doing the mother meditation like a proud and happy Buddhist. Right? That was Mishi getting exactly what she needed at that moment. Right? She was supplied perfectly with exactly the right thing in that moment. So make no mistake, when you decide to become a Bodhisattva, you will get what you need to become enlightened. And what you need to become enlightened is you need to purify a whole bunch of negative karma. So, you're going to have to meet some people that you resist, that you want to yell at, that you want to blame, and you're going to have to hold the line. And you'll be tested like that over and over and over again. And it will get easier and easier.
Doesn't it become more and more subtle?
It does become more and more subtle.
Like it's not always people.
Oh, no.
Like it becomes
your own mind.
your thoughts.
Which it always was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah makes a good point. Here's a really cool concept. Really cool concept. So get this, try and catch this. So, let's say you decide, gosh darn it, I'm going to become a Buddha. And then you embark upon this journey, right? And you get out your 6 times book. And you get out, and every day you do it, right? And you meditate. And you have a lama. And you decide, okay, I'm going to stop doing certain things. I'm going to stop, let's just pick one. I'm going to stop divisive talk. Let's say you're going to do that, right? What is like the karmic correlation of divisive talk, things like that, would be like low self-esteem. You know, things like that, or idle speech, right? Is like low self-esteem. You have the glory of experiencing that if you've done a lot of divisive talk in your, right? So you decide, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, and you're very, very careful, and you stop it in your mouth. You stop it at your mouth, right? And then you begin to notice, well, the thoughts are still there. You're still having like divisive thoughts, you know, you idiot. But it just only goes as far as your face, right? It just stops here, and you know, right? And then you've got enough presence of mind to be noticing these things. You're like, wow, my mind's like a jungle gym, right? And then those begin to diminish. They get more and more subtle. But what then has to happen is, because you've turned the wheel around and you've turned the process into an inner process of becoming enlightened, what then must attack you is your own self, because you have made it so the world, you figured it out. It's not the world's fault. I can't blame the world anymore. So you stop divisive talk in the world, and you're not gossiping. People start talking behind people's back, you try and stop it, or you leave, or whatever it is, you do this thing. And then the final purification is your own mind attacking yourself. And you start to feel low self-esteem. You start to have thoughts of jealousy. You start to feel very divided in yourself. You start to feel you can't even trust your own thoughts, because it's come all the way home. Because you figured it out, it's not the world. So the final purification is your own battle against yourself. And it just gets more and more and more subtle till the final moments when you're getting close to seeing emptiness, and then beyond, even after that, all you're doing at that point is you're knocking off the ones that are attacking your own self in your own mind. And you're not reacting to your own thoughts. that have come to haunt you, because that's all that's left. And then your world becomes perfect from the inside out. And that's the way it has to happen, because the karma is there. The non-virtue is sitting there waiting, right? The demons are just waiting. Like, and that's why you have to have halaksam nangdak. You have to have that strong intention to make it through, because the closer that you get and the harder you practice, weird stuff will happen. You'll come up against obstacles that are extraordinary. See, in one sense you say, well, yeah, people will not help you. But at the same time, you'll want for nothing. If you teach the Dharma with a pure heart and a motivation to really help people, your world, whether it looks like you have thousands of dollars in the bank or $2 in the bank, you will want for nothing. And that's like Lord Buddha's promise, is that teaching the Dharma, anyone who teaches the Dharma with a pure heart will be taken care of. He didn't say how. He didn't say you'd have a luxury car, but you would have what you need to fulfill your wishes. And if your wishes are just to teach the Dharma and help all other beings, then you will get what you need to do that. Like, you're not going to have dozens of people coming up to you and like congratulating you on taking a month off of work to go into retreat. There'll be a few people. It's cool. I had this guy work that every time I did that, he's, I'm proud of you, Johnny. Right? That's
cool.
right, and it gets like that too. So that if you hold the line, it gets easier and easier and easier. The story that they use in this about this Bodhisattva saint, who was walking down a road, and someone came up to him, and this is like an example of a demon, and said, "Oh, aren't you like this big Bodhisattva dude?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, I am." He says, "Well, give me your eyeball then, big Bodhisattva." And the Bodhisattva reached out and he scooped out his eyeball and said, "Well, here." And then the person said, "You gave it to me with the wrong hand," and threw it on the ground and crushed his eyeball. "What's wrong with you? How could you give me your eyeball with the wrong hand? It's disgusting." And they say that in that moment, this high Bodhisattva lost hope for a second and went, "What's with people? All I do is serve. All I do is trying to help them. And what do I give them my eyeball, and they still are not happy." Right? And it says, the legends say, that in that moment, this Bodhisattva lost a bunch of ground that he had to gain back. Because that's how subtle it gets at that point in your career. And they say that if he would have held on for 5 more minutes or 5 more seconds and not, then he would have reached all his goals in 1 instant. So that's a good contemplation there. Like, how does that work exactly, right? But like Western society, like maybe they don't believe in things like demons. But the reason why that they don't believe in things like demons is because they don't see any demons. Some do. Some people do see demons. But there's a reason why they don't see demons. You see, if you practice very purely and strongly, and your intention is to get the heck out of samsara and help everyone else to get out of samsara, you will be tested and you will see these things. You will see these things and they will try to mess with you, and they're not little, like, frail, stupid beings. They're very intelligent, crafty, smart, wise beings that will try to throw you off your game, and you'll see them. You'll see them in people that you know, and you'll see them in people that you just, and you just, your love and your compassion, they don't have any power over your love and compassion. They can't touch it. They can't touch your understanding of emptiness and your love and your compassion. And you will see these things when you get close to the final goal. But they don't come out of the dark to haunt you in the day as long as you just watch television. See, the Western world, they're not talking about demons because that type of reality where demons habituate, or is that the word, habitate? Habit? That doesn't matter. They are very happy with the way the Western world is conducting themselves. Why would they bother? There's nothing to do. We're still killing each other over things, and we're still like fighting over stupid stuff, right? Husband and wives are like yelling at each other in the kitchens. People are fighting over the remote. What's there to do? There's nothing to do, right? People are, yeah.
I'm still stuck on the eyeballs. Sorry.
Yeah.
Why would you give someone an eyeball when they already have 2 eyeballs?
Well, that's a good question. Maybe he was hungry. I don't know. But it's hard to relate to a story like that. And the moral of the story is that when you reach a certain place, when your body is made of so much virtue, is a projection of so much virtue, then you can give more and more and more. And then you would be able to give your eyeball painlessly. But Master Shantideva says, start with carrots and potatoes, right? So you don't give what you can't give. It's just a good contemplation. Yeah, why would he give his eyeball to a person? I don't really know why he would. I don't know why anybody would even ask.
I'm trying to think of it in practical terms, like in our day and age, you want to give to someone who's needy. You don't really want to give to someone who already has what they need and maybe has squandered their money, and then wants from you or wants to keep their savings and wants from you. So are you going to give just because someone asks? It doesn't matter what the situation is. If someone's asked if you're supposed to give, is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm not trying to say that at all. Like this Bodhisattva would have had to have a good reason to do that. They don't tell us that. They use the story, and I have never heard the backstory of why he would offer the eyeball, and I've never heard the pretense or the story as to why he would even ask for an eyeball. They're just using the demonstration, like, even a high person who could do that could lose their faith for a second. And they're saying, like, your wish to help people has to be so strong that even in a case like that, it still has to hold on. And, in this day and age, it may be, in this day and age, it may be like being on the board for 3 jewels. In this day and age, it may be like giving every ounce of spare time that you have to 3 jewels, right? Where it's like, and at first you come into 3 jewels, and you're like all stoked about the place, and then you begin teaching, and you get more and more involved, and then all of a sudden you're without any effort on your part whatsoever, you have somehow gained the capacity to live about 14 lives at once. Really, I'm not kidding. And you don't even really know how it's happening. You're serving so many people in one day. It's ridiculous, and you don't even really know like how, right? And that would be like a modern day version of that, right? Like I'll give you one like kind of wild example. I get phone calls from this place where Christine works, and they phone me a short notice. Can you come and like change a light bulb We'll pay you good. We'll pay you good. Come and change the light bulb, right? But the other day, I got the phone call from this holy Victoria. Oh, John, can you come? The toilet's not working. And I'm like, okay, I'll get there as soon as I can. You know, so then I phone. So I can't get there today. I'll try and get there tomorrow. She's like, okay. And so then the next day, I say, oh, I can't get there. I guess I had to do all the other stuff. I couldn't quite get there before he closed. But then she sends a deal back. Don't worry about it. It's done. Nobody knows how. No one knows how the toilet got fixed. I'm like, thank you. That was easy. That's happened about 3 times there. We're like, we don't know how it's happened, but it's done. And we'll send me the invisible check. Like, no. So like when your world changes, you begin to be able to do these kinds of things. So like that would be your capacity increases, right? What your body can do, what you can see your body do changes, right? How much sleep you need changes. What you eat, what you need to eat changes, right? You can live on very little sleep and very little food. And you're not tired, right? You're because your heart is so concerned about everyone else all the time. Even when you're sitting there relaxing and watching a movie, you have this mind that is considering your students. And it's like not a distraction. You have a mind that's like thinking how you're going to teach this certain subject. You have this mind that's like thinking about others all the time. All the time. So you're gone. The you that was causing all the trouble your whole life, it no longer rules the roost. You know? You feed him once in a while. Give him sleep once in a while. But, right? Like things will begin to happen. Like for instance, you've got like mental karma and you've got physical karma. Actions and wisdom, right? So you've got the deeds that you do in a physical way in the world. That's creating your tantric deity body. That's creating the projection, right? That's creating your virtue to look down at your parts and see light body. And then there's the parts of your mind, the moments of consciousness that you can project omniscience, right? Enlightened mind. And so certain things have to happen. Like you could have a purification. Like for instance, I have had in the last 3 days, I have hit the same spot on my thumb about 6 times, right? In exactly the same spot. I mean exactly. I mean it's funny. I don't know how it's even still there. It's been cut, it's been slammed, it's been scraped, right there, and it looks nothing happened. These are clues, you see. Things start to happen like that, and you realize that, I probably just purified the virtue of having my arm cut off, right? I was supposed to get my wrist, my hand cut off. I don't really know. I was supposed to get my thumb cut off, but instead, because of all that I've been thinking of and doing, it changed into getting hit 6 times exactly on this one spot. And because of my mind, I also somehow had the virtue to think of it like that, right? See, it's one thing to think of it like that. I go, oh wow, awesome. This is like I just got closer to my tantric deity body, right? That's a karma to have that thought. Or I could have thought, stupid, again, right? Which is different. It's completely different thought form. Like why do you bite your cheek 6 times in the same place in one day? It's inevitable. As soon as you do it one time, you'd think that, your mouth would learn. But it's going to do it again. Anyway. But when you see emptiness, if you haven't perceived like demons doing funny things in your world to people and to you, to try to do to you, yet you will, after you see emptiness, you'll see them. They'll come out and try and play with you a little bit, and you just like power over them, like no problem. Your love and is so they don't have any strength against you.
Question.
Yes. Here it
What do
comes.
you mean by demons? How do they fit? Into
Yeah,
this? Like, are they people that all of a sudden, like, are they disguised? Are they people that all of a sudden?
I'll give you an example. You could be sitting across from somebody and having a conversation with somebody, right? And you're having a very pleasant conversation, and all of a sudden, you know that they want to kill you. Right? All of a sudden, there's a part of their mind and that wants to do physical harm to you. Right? And you see both of them. It's like you see this person that's in front of you that is not that, but then there's this other thing that comes in and presents itself to you as in like, I can mess with you and I can take you down. Not only that, like say if it's your student, for instance, if it's your student, they may say to you like, I can take you down and I can also take your student down. Your student is powerless against me. And then this is something that the person may or may not experience directly. If the person is like has their wits about them and they meditate regularly, they'll feel it too. And they'll be like, well, something's really weird is happening. Like, I want to punch you. And then it gets fun then. Because then you can actually communicate to both of them, right? And then, so really, you can say demon, you could say ego, like the destructive ego, the destructive version of a person's ego, right? Because there's, until you get out of samsara, there is an element in most people's minds that will fight it, right? That will try to stop it, and each person will fight their own. And a lama will help. A lama, you can help someone go through that, and love them through it. I know that I had help that way. I was definitely consumed by my own self-destructive, self-serving like ego that was very interested in me not becoming happy, and I got help. And then so that would be an example. That wouldn't be the only example, but that would be like an example that and you have power, you see, you have power over that. And a lot of times what people don't realize is that when they come to a lama, like there's a part of them that sees this lama and goes like, okay, here's my answer. And that's like the part of them that will, you could say, reach enlightenment. But all the other stuff that's lurking around in the background is going to be brought up to the surface by the lama. By the lama. The lama will bring it out. And then will remain this constant love. And he'll be like, no, you don't get to mess with my student. And you just clear it. It vanishes and comes back. Vanishes and comes back until it's finally gone. And that happens. Like a true lama, a person who has deep stillness and deep realizations, and their mind has reached a certain point where they understand the nature of mind, that's what they do. They do those kinds of things for people because they can, because they can see both aspects of a person, and they can escort the other one out by saying certain things and teaching certain things. There was one time, I'll tell you a story. There was one time, this is quite a few years ago. It's actually before the Dharma, I don't know. I was sitting in a car with my friend, and all of a sudden, there was this really heavy presence, right, in the car. It was like this really heavy presence, and I was like, whoa, like what just came here? And then my friend was completely consumed by this thing, right? And I could see my friend, and I could see the other thing. And then both of us simultaneously rocketed out of this car, right? And my friend began to attack me. And there was something in my mind that knew that this thing didn't have any power over me. I didn't know why. And I kneed my friend in the belly really hard, and what my knee hit was what felt like a bowling ball. It was very strange. And this thing shot up and floated in the air above him for a while and then left. Like that happened. So, and then we both went home and we were both like freaked out. And I don't know. So all kinds of things can happen. But mostly what you'll experience it in the form of something like the ego, trying to stop progress, desperately trying to stop progress and live in the mind of somebody. That's way off topic now. So we got to quickly get through the last bit. Some of you probably don't know this, because some of you weren't in 10 and 11, but he's supposed to have covered all of the perfections in this course, but he didn't do giving yet. And he saves giving for last. And because he wants to have something to give as an example of the perfection of giving. So he just gave the most precious things. He just gave the idea of emptiness, and he gave love and compassion. And his last action in the book is to give away the virtue of doing the book. And that's how he teaches the perfection of giving. And we can do the same giving right? We can do the same for the good deed of studying the book. We can give away the good deed of studying the book. Right? Now you have something to give. You studied the book. You can give it away. You can give away that virtue. And he couldn't do it at the beginning of his book because he wasn't finished yet. He didn't have anything to give yet, according to him, anyways. So he's using the practice of dedication as his example of the perfection of giving. Now, if you remember the seven limb, like some of you know the preliminaries, some of you don't know the preliminaries, but there's this seven limb prayer, or there's a seven ingredients that you do before you meditate. And certain things are supposed to actually accumulate virtue, and certain things are supposed to purify negative karma. And I've led it through you before, and we'll do it at the very end of class. But it can be a practice on its own. But when you're like making prostrations, making offerings, you're collecting virtue. When you're doing the confession, you're getting rid of bad karma. So you're purifying obstacles and you're accumulating merit in this 7-step process. And dedication is part of it. So at the end of the whole thing, you dedicate what you've done to something specific. So the difference between a dedication and a prayer is that a dedication, you have something to give, you have something to offer. You're like, okay, I just did this amazing virtue, and I'm going to dedicate that action to something helpful. If you're in these classes, what you want to do is dedicate it to my enlightenment, or dedicate it to me seeing emptiness directly, so that I can help all other beings, right? A prayer is different in that a prayer, you're just wishing for something good to happen. You know, like, may I see emptiness directly. May all beings see emptiness directly. May I become totally enlightened. That's a prayer. Right? If you're doing a dedication, it's like, oh, I just did this amazing thing. I came to all 10 classes. May the virtue of that, may I dedicate the virtue of that to myself reaching total enlightenment, so that I can help all other beings. Right? It's like this. That's the difference. It's like an investment. The dedication is like an investment. And when you do that, it's like you're sealing the deal. You're putting the karma of what you've done in the bank. And I would say that I don't know if anyone dedicates enough. You can't dedicate too much. The more you dedicate, the better off you are. And that's how he says about the perfection of giving. That's how he gets out of doing this whole thing on perfection of giving. He just talks about dedication, which we'll talk a little bit more about right now. Right? Like, that's how he gets out of it. He teaches dedication. And it's the last one of the most, it's one of the most crucial of the 7 steps. It's the last one, dedicating the merit of what you've done. And the dedication there's a positive aspect. It's just funny. There's a positive aspect to dedicating and a negative aspect to dedicating. What do you think it is? What could be negative about about dedicating?
Emptiness.
The emptiness is negative?
Isn't it?
Well, that's one way of looking at it. That's a good debate. But if we're going to talk about it in the ways of negative result, instead of like the negative of it, if you're going to talk about dedication, and you're going to talk about it, we're going to talk about it in a positive way and a negative way.
Doesn't it eliminate suffering? Is that negative?
Well, that sounds positive to me.
But it's an elimination, so it's a negative.
But isn't it good to eliminate your suffering?
Yeah.
It's positive then. It's so simple.
Is it a double negative?
No? No, because that would be a positive. It's really a negative, right? It's so simple.
It's really good.
Because they're always doing this kind of thing, right? The positive is, here's what happened if you will do it. The negative is, here's what happens if you don't do it.
Oh.
That's it.
Don't do what?
Dedicate.
Oh.
See? Right, the positive and negative. Well, these are all the wonderful things that will happen if you dedicate. And here's what won't happen if you don't. Or here's what will happen if you don't dedicate, right?
But here's what will happen if you don't.
Yes.
Seems like you better do it or else.
If you're smart, you better do it.
It's up to you.
Right.
But if you don't do it.
If you don't do it, we're going to talk about this right in the next second.
Okay.
Because if you don't do it, like, okay. If you do any virtue and you dedicate it, then it turns into pure good karma. If you don't dedicate it, it turns into dirty white karma, which means it will end. Okay? So, if I give a homeless person $2, and I don't understand their emptiness, and I just give them $2 because I'm kind and I want to give them $2. I want them to maybe get something to eat, and I just forget about it. I must get a positive result from that. You know, I'll get maybe 10 Snickers bars because karma grows, but that's all that will happen. I will get 10 Snickers bars, and then that will be over. It will end, and that's what's called dirty white karma. Like they say, for instance, your physical body, if you do see yourself with a physical body, it's of great virtue. It's a good karma to have this physical body, but it's dirty white karma in that it also causes you problems and it's going to end. But you need it to become enlightened, so it's amazing to have one. The body that you will see yourself having that's a product of pure karma won't be a body that ends. It will be a body made of something else. It will be a body made of virtue that you've done consciously with an understanding of the emptiness of all aspects of what you were doing and then dedicating them. Right? Like, this course is empty.
So what are you saying for pure karma as you give that $2 to the homeless person? What are you saying to
Good question. If for that to be a pure karma, it would be like, you'd have to have for this to be like a really happening, hot, unbelievable merit, pure karma. It would be like this. Well, I'm not totally enlightened yet, so I don't really know what you are. But you may be homeless, like you look homeless, but you also might be totally enlightened. I don't really know. And how I see myself is also a projection. So, you know, I could also be anything to myself if I had different karma. And so is this chocolate bar, so is this toonie. To me, it's this thing. To them, it's going to be something else. I don't really know. And then you hand this toonie. You see them get it. And then, because you understand the laws of karma and emptiness, you understand that must have a result. And then in your mind, you can do a few things. You should really have fun with it, but you could say, by this act of kindness to this person, may I always have what I need so that I can practice, so that I can become enlightened, so that I can save all living beings. Boom, you walk away. And that's one nice little package of karma that will be pure white karma, that will ripen as something much, much bigger than simply dropping the toonie and keeping on going, not really thinking too much about it. If it's really, this is a very deep and profound idea, this whole dedicating thing. Because the clearer that you understand the emptiness of things, the deeper and easier it is. Like an Arya, for example, is an Arya and beyond, for example, and even someone maybe even close to that, it's like they're in constant dedication. Because everything they do, they understand the emptiness of their acts. And just like feeding a bird, you can just be like, you don't have to think like you're a normal person living a normal life. You could go to Stanley Park and like be having some bread, and you're like trying to feed the birds, and you're like, and maybe they're scared of you, but you're like, just come on, and you're like and in your mind, you're like, I have the 9th chapter in my head. I have it in my head. Come closer, right? And then you trick them into taking something from you, and you're like, I got you. 3 lifetimes from now, I'm going to be teaching you emptiness. Like that kind of a thing. You dedicate the act of feeding a bird, some simple act, into countless merit. And so as you're walking down the street or doing anything in your life, at work, on the phone, whatever it may be, with your daughter, with your sons, lovers, whatever, any act that you do, you can be totally dedicating it to your enlightenment. Right? If you do the dishes or you sweep the floor, you stay behind and you like sweep the floor of 3 jewels. And you think while you're doing that, yeah, may this be creating my Buddha paradise. What do you have to be to have a Buddha paradise? You got to be a Buddha, right? So that's, like that. And the only way that works is by understanding that everything is empty, right? So you sat here through all these classes. Some people, everyone heard something different. Everyone came here for different reasons. Some people only heard it in words. Some people got it at some deep, subtle level. Some people were like, when's it going to end? Some people, tantric deities, just like here for my benefit. Maybe some people were like internet dating or something, right? Dharma dating. Showing up to a Dharma fast to hope to meet somebody. You don't know. Like, there's all kinds of reasons why. And it's completely empty. All of it. You, the space, the teachings, the words, all of it. And if you have that on your mind, the sky's the limit. Like, you're blowing through samsara. You're like shattering the very foundations of samsara by having those kinds of thoughts, right? And then you go home and you think, by the goodness of me being in that class, may I reach total enlightenment so that I can help all other living beings. And then it's like that's very different than, I made it through that class, got to get some sleep. I'll do my homework tomorrow. And just not dedicating it. When I was at Diamond Mountain with Lama Roger, he's all over that with me. He was like, Johnny, do not make the mistake of not dedicating this karma. You're serving like a madman. Don't make the mistake of not dedicating it. He's all over me all the time about that. Right? Right? Some people hear these things and they're like, oh my God, right? My whole life is changed. And it's not the words. If it was the words, then everyone else would be going, oh my God. So any small thing that you ever do, you can dedicate to your highest purpose. Any small thing. Any small thing you do. You don't have to think normally about anything. Don't let anybody convince you that you're normal.
Can you dedicate something you did last week?
Absolutely.
Today?
You can dedicate something that you did last week, and not only that, you can rededicate. You can rejoice in something that you've done over and over and over again, right? But we usually do the opposite. You see? It works. We know the opposite works because we're always doing that, right? Gloating over the negative things. It happened one time, right? It happened one time. 10 years ago, your husband did this thing, but you think about it over and over and over again, and it ruins the marriage, right? Yes, it works to gloat. It functions to gloat. So switch gloating to rejoicing. It functions the same way. Instead of ending the marriage, turn it into like a couple of Buddhas hanging out by rejoicing, regurgitating, and rejoicing. Right? Because the closer you get to total enlightenment, the easier it is for you to be constantly perpetuating this. Because a totally enlightened being has the ability to get out more than they put in. It's like fusion. It's like they're performing a miracle at all times. Because they're constantly in this stream of understanding, seeing the emptiness of everything at all times. Constantly in their heart is always the wish that all living beings are happy. right? If you're walking around and you've been working on this wish, and you just always have this thing in your heart, I wish that all living beings were happy, and I want to become enlightened so that I can teach them that, and that's on your mind all the time, pretty soon, that's just on your mind all the time. And then you understand why things are happening. Every time you give, everything you do is like you're seducing people into your Buddha paradise. Right? You're like offering something, someone helps you carry something, and you're like, you're mine now. I have you now. If it's this life, if it's not this life, it'll be the next one. You'll come and I will teach you emptiness. I have you now. Right? And you think like that. You turn your life into this magical, extraordinary wonderland of dedicating your virtue. And it keeps your mind on emptiness because that's the only way that it works. That's why it works. The more you dedicate, you're forced into considering how that could work. So you're forced on thinking that things are not self-existent. Because if things were self-existent, none of that would work. There would be no point. There would be no point. You couldn't change yourself. No one else could change. You might as well give up. So how do you become a perpetual dedicating machine? You see emptiness. That's why, after you see emptiness, your path to enlightenment is just amplified like crazy. Because everything you do is like this perpetual dedication. Yeah, like remember the other day I told you that me and Mishi were looking for a house, and we pulled up to this one place, and there was a family there, and we're like instantaneously, they got to have the house. We got to make sure the family gets the house, or we'll never get a house. Well, we got a house, like effortlessly, instantaneously. Like it can happen really fast if you're on it, and you understand the emptiness of things. We got this amazing house that we're going to get, and we get to practice our instruments, and it's all good. That did not come from anything else. It didn't come because it happened to be there, and it happened in it, right? It happened to become available. That's not how it happened. Anyway. So if you don't think like that, then these kinds of classes and these kinds of things you do in your life will just kind of like fade away and turn into like just more nice stuff that you'll get to enjoy and then die. Right? So you can enjoy your life, enjoy your friends, enjoy food, and be like offering it all the time, you know? Like, oh, this is good. You just dedicate it to others. Your lama is great. Like you're eating food and you're like, oh, so good. And you're just like offering it to your lama. You're like, please, you know, all beings, please enjoy. May all beings like just be in bliss from what I'm eating. Like one of my lamas, Lama Roger, he's a big fan of fast reverse. If you're in a car, if I'm driving with him, and you're in a car and you turn around and you drive and you go faster in reverse, he's like, I love that. So every time I see anyone going in reverse, in my mind is like, that's going to Lama Roger right there. Or if I'm going like this and I'm backing up, I go a little bit faster. This is for Lama Roger. Yeah, because then your mind becomes this thing, right? So I just gotta get this done quickly. There's a long dedication that he does, and it's in your reading. We can't go over it, and Geshe Lapa Roche decided not to do it because it's too long. It's like all or nothing. I tried to do it. I tried to get through it in Sunday, Shamatha Sunday. I had 24 entire minutes, and I could not get it in. It's that long. And he just dedicates the virtue to like stopping the suffering of all living beings. May I be the rain, May I be, he's praying for women to have perfect, blissful births. Like he's just doing everything. And it's beautiful. But we're just going to go to the very last dedication that he makes, okay? This is what he chooses as the most important thing to dedicate to. May these teachings stay in the world for a very long time, as they are the one and only medicine for the suffering of living beings. That's his final word on it. He feels that his most crucial dedication is to the one thing that he believes across the board can save all beings. Right? It's profound. So he writes this masterpiece, right, and then dedicates it just to that. May the teachings survive. May they save all beings. Right? And once you confirm it for yourself and you know that karma and emptiness works, and someone comes to you, it's your responsibility to teach it to them properly. And you can. And you don't have to call it Buddhism. Right? If you can convince someone about the emptiness of the pen and that means that they should be moral, you don't have to even say Buddha in there. Right? You just help someone major. Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. Jesus wasn't a Christian. Like that was all later. He was like running around doing these amazing things. He wasn't preaching Christianity. Right? He was not a Christian. I'm not going to go there. So you just have to realize that everybody wants happiness, and they're doing everything they can to get happy. Some people like harm themselves to get some kind of happiness, and you realize that the one thing that's going to save everybody is this one idea, karma and emptiness. And then you just dedicate. May it survive. May it flourish, right? People's happiness. That's the issue. And then the final things, right? Interesting too, right? If every thought that you have has a reaction, what do you suppose could give you the virtue of understanding all this perfectly? If you in your heart wished that the teachings were alive in the world and that everyone could understand them and it would save everybody, that simple thought in your mind will come back to you as the ability to understand it yourself. Right? It's not what's in here. These words cannot make you understand. They can't. Your karma can make you understand, but the words can't. If they could, well then there'd be no point in having class. You guys just take a binder home and just like, la la la, this is awesome, I get it all. I'm Buddha now. What's next? Right? It's just not the way it works. Okay. The last thing he says, the very, very last thing he says, it's very cool. I prostrate to my good root Lama, requesting that all of his or her goodness spread throughout my heart. I prostrate to my good root Lama, requesting that all his or her goodness spread throughout my heart. That's the final word. That's it. We just did the whole book. And what he's saying here, you can study it, but it won't work unless you have a Lama. Unless you have a heart Lama. You have to go find this one being who can really spread these things in your heart. right? You can't do it without some holy being that comes and helps you, because we don't know. If you already knew, you'd already know, and you wouldn't need a teacher. Like, we have this fantasy that, oh, I can figure it out myself. It's not how it works. You need someone who can take you higher, take you out of yourself. Some kind of holy being, and I can get up here and I can teach you this and that, and you may or may not have that kind of relationship with me. But you have to find that person. No matter, you have to find that person. The one that fits you, right? The one that fits you, and you got to check them out, make sure they're perfect for you. You watch them, are they kind? I'll tell you, and if you find them, you stick to them like glue. And you'll probably fight with them when you do find them. If they're good. If they have any skill, you'll fight with them a bit. But one good way to check out if a Lama is any good or not is to check out the students. Right? Like, has he produced anything good? Right? Has he or she produced anything good? Like, is one of their students someone that you would come to for advice? Does it look like one of their students is on their way to becoming enlightened? Does it look like one of their students, like maybe one of their students is so powerful that you may all of a sudden choose that they're going to be your Lama? You don't, whatever your heart tells you is the right fit. Right? It's no accident, right? If this person, is this person a teacher in their own right? Right? It's no accident. It's no accident that this person became a teacher from the guidance of this person who you're contemplating, maybe asking to be your Lama, right? You just have to be careful, because it's your spiritual real estate. But he's bowing down at the end, and who does he bow to? He bows to Manjushri. He bows down to the Buddha of wisdom, because apparently he was getting directly coached by Manjushri himself, the tantric deity of wisdom. And guess what? If you have the karma, if you plant enough virtue and do the right things, that's who will be teaching you. You will see that your teacher is a tantric deity. You will see that they're totally enlightened. And that will be a forced projection on your part. And you will be coached, Manjushri or Buddha of wisdom or the Buddha of compassion, or both. Like, you'll be directly being coached by them if you have the virtue to see that. And Master Shantideva clearly did. And he actually says, I bow down directly to Manjushri. Because they're empty. Because they're empty. If they had a self-existence, they couldn't become Manjushri for you. They would always stay this person who was just kind of like this cool Lama, but never change into like this, whoa, wow, were you always this thing, right? And then you give yourself to them, right? And you'll reach your paradise. If you, right? There's one special one that's been waiting for you to notice. So that's it, So I thank you, for making me teach this. There's nothing greater in my life that I could be doing with my life than teach this. So you don't, unless you're totally enlightened, you don't really know what I'm looking at. What else would a tantric, what else would a pack of tantric deities do but to say, hey, let's go down to 3 Jewels and make John teach us the 9th chapter. Boy needs some help. boy needs some help down there. Let's go and sign up for his class and make him teach it. So it's an incredible blessing for me to teach this class. Amazing. So I thank you all for that. Thank you all. And I'm sorry it's 10 o'clock again. These are long classes, but yay. And we do not prostrate at the end of the last class. It's supposed to mean unfinished business. There's still more to do. Maybe. But we do dedicate.
Yes, yes.
And Christine shall take us home.
Sashi Jukshin Meto Tramri Raling Shi Nyende Genpadi Sange Shinju Mite Uwa Yidro Kunam Shingla Chupasho Idam Guru Ratnam Lalakam Niyatayami Kewati Kewokun Sunam Yeshe Zotoshin Sunam Yeshe Lejunwe Tampa Kuni Topasho.
Just take a brief moment with your eyes still closed and just see the light in your heart from doing all your beautiful hard work, staying in class. See this light very brightly in your heart, the karma, the virtue of being in this class, and decide that you're going to give it all away and think like, by all my efforts, may every living being understand karma and emptiness. May every living being reach great compassion. May every living being reach holy love, holy compassion. And so, by the combination of understanding reality, the ultimate worldview, by understanding that things are void of self-existence, combined with great love and compassion, may every single living being be free from suffering and enter the paradise of continuous bliss. And that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, please keep teaching us.
When are you teaching
Okay.
again?
What's that?
When are you teaching again?
Yeah, when am I teaching again?
September.
What's that?
September.
September?
First Sunday, THY.
Well, yeah, right. This Sunday, THY, the principles of THY is happening this Sunday.
This Sunday?
It's not
No,
this
no,
Sunday.
next Sunday.
No, next Sunday.
No, it's
No, it can't be.
This Sunday.
This Sunday. It can't be next Sunday because the following one I'm teaching the Tibetan Heart Yoga workshop.
Yeah.
So the principles of, yeah, you're thinking it was that one.
Yeah.
Oh, so.
Yeah, no, just the usual monthly workshop.
Oh.
The principles of THY is happening this Sunday. And then in September, we start up again with ACI 13. And, right, so far we've got 2 people that are interested in getting the Bodhisattva Vows course, possibly over the summer, before September. Like, it will happen before September. I'll make sure it happens one way or the other. Well, what that means is you'll take the course, and then when the course is over, we'll do a vow ceremony, and you can get your Bodhisattva vows. You get a whole brand new name, and you don't have to have done all the courses, or even one course to take that course. It's so just please let me know one way or the other if you're interested. So far we got 2, and it will happen. Zoe, okay, that's 3. That's 3, so that's good. So just don't be shy. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.